Hi, this is Johnny Bergen with another Chicago Blues guitar lesson. Before I get rolling, I do want to let you know I started a Patreon channel to help me keep these free blues lessons coming. So if you want to support what you're hearing, do join me on Patreon. So now let's get right down to it. I want to talk about something a little more general this time around, and I'm going to call it fluency in your solos. I kind of look at players in three categories, or there's three steps. The first step is learning, the materials, like where the notes are, where things are on the neck, what the chords are, right? Your chord forms. I mean, you start out just learning an E chord, an A chord, a D chord, a G chord, and so on. And then you start learning the single notes out of those chords and out of scales. That's first thing. That takes a while. Then you have a stage, a long, awkward stage that a lot of people never get out of. And that is where you have a bunch of licks and devices, maybe you call them devices. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but you always have, that's where you're sort of, it's not really spontaneous playing because you're always like going back to something you already know all the time and like forcing that into a situation. And then you have like real fluency, which is just like conversing. I mean, if you're just learning a foreign language, first you have to make a plan to get through a conversation. You kind of dread the conversation. You know you're going to say something wrong or forget a word or whatever, and it's awful. It's like that stage. But real fluency is when you can just talk. You don't really plan out your conversation. You're just doing it. So how do you get to real fluency when it comes to playing a guitar solo so you don't feel like you're walking across a swinging bridge and you're going to fall into a chasm and you just can't wait to get to the other side? So obviously this is a complex topic, and I'm just going to give you some tips to sort of get to some fluency. So a looper or a backing track really helps. There's some great backing tracks out there. Um, and I'm going to pick a song that's kind of typical musically as a form. Great song. I mean, the performance is way above typical. I'm talking about Shuggie Otis, Me and My Woman. That's a perfect example. So I have a loop here. I don't know if I did the whole loop. Let's see what I did. This is in B flat. Okay, what I looped here was just the 1 and the 4. I'm going to practice going from the 1 to the 4 and back. So fluency kind of involves like having a really good grasp of what sounds good, where, and why. So, so you could break it down into smaller parts, like practicing from the 1 to the 4 and back. So what would sound good from the 1 to the 4 and back? I'm just going from the B flat to the E flat. Lots of times the 7th of the chord sounds really good. Now I'm going to bend up to the root of the 4 chord and then to its 7th. Do it again. You can do your little micro tugs. All right. Now I'm going to get a little more complicated. So I'm going to practice 5, 4, 1 and talk about what sounds good there and why. So here's the 5. I'll do this one. Want to try it again? Now let's pretend we're Jimmy Doggins. Now how about you or someone? That wasn't very good. So you can practice that. So what sounds good over the 5, going to the 4 and to the 1? You could try the 7th, works really well over the 5 chord. And it makes you feel like you're waiting for a resolution. And then over here, the same lick sounds different going over the 4, doesn't it? Because this note is the 4, the E flat here. This is the 7th of your 5 chord. And everybody understands what I mean, right? I think you do. It's just the interval, the 7th interval of this F chord is an E flat there. And then when you finally hit the 1, you want to be like a sledgehammer. So you don't want to, I see a lot of guys who are still working to acquire fluency. You don't want to hit the 1 all the time, because like it's kind of like you're stuck on, some apron strings and running back to mom, because like, okay, this is not wrong, it's the 1, right? Well, you're not telling much of a story that way. You have to really get to where you're surfing on it, So hopefully you could hear this over it. Now on the 5. This sounds good over the 4. So the one thing all this little passes had in common was I usually hit the 1 right when we came down on the 1, but you don't have to. And now let's try another spot that really sounds good on the 5, which is this. It's out of this chord, right? That sounds great on the 4. That is the 4, and that's the 7th of the 4. See how I waited a minute there? So out of this, and then out of that, and then out of that. So if you practice this, and let's say, right. That really, you should sound like you're trying to tell a story. So I know I'm saying a lot of you should do this and you should do that, and I'm not explaining how exactly. And it's really hard to teach fluency, I think. And definitely, let me know how helpful or not you're finding this lesson. Let's try it again. So these are notes these are phrases that answer one another. They're like little frick and frack, or like his best, little best friends, right? See how I walked into the chord there? That really sounded like 5-4-1, didn't it? And one way you can practice this is just say, okay, get that sound in your head, and then That note is part of this chord. It's the seventh. The end, right? Now let's say we're beginning the song right here. Now let's answer it. So ending on the third and the seventh. End on the five here. I like the way Shuggie starts that when he really starts it like. And then you can switch positions around. Like that's one thing that's good about learning all these different. This is a great one here. This is a later BB thing. And there's even a video of BB doing this, which is just fabulous. He does something like this. First finger, 11th fret, E string. Reach your third finger out. So you bend it up like a half step or even a little less. 11th fret bend, unbend, reach out with your 14th fret B string, third finger. And then a lot of your contrast is kind of major, minor, salty, sweet, right? Sweet and then salty. Kind of ended on a salty note, right? When it had been sweet. So I'm going to just go real slow and try the whole thing. Yeah, Shuggie Otis' stuff is just great on this. So you want to contrast your positions. Try to sound like you're talking. You could try playing the melody and then commenting on that. And if all that's too much for you, you can make yourself a little road map. Make a little plan for your solo. But the goal is to get past that. So right now I got no plan, but I'm going to use contrasts. And try to do a solo that makes sense. That says, I'm here, right? Into my third. Now let's try a different position. The one sounds good over the four. I used the three on the over the one here. The seventh becomes the one over the four chord. Just let it hang for a while. Now sweet. That sounds like someone saying, yeah, you're right. Put some chordal stuff like, I think that's from the record. Yeah. Now dig this. That's the seventh of your one chord. It grows great over the five. And the four. You can use repetition with dynamics. With T-bone, right? I played the four note over the four chord. How about that, right? Let's try this again. First finger bend on the 6th fret. You know, this, you really can't learn this in 5 minutes, and it's really great to play with a friend. if you can't find a friend to play chords where you swap back and forth, then get a backing track or a loop. And you'll start learning as you go along what sounds good where and why. So I didn't give you any hard and fast rules, but there's a lot of suggestions there. You know, contrasting positions, contrasting major and minor, the sevenths, the thirds. Don't go back to the one all the time like you're scared. Just go ahead and surf on the changes, and you start noticing, you know, start listening to what sounds good where and thinking about the why. So hope you enjoyed this video. Do subscribe to my channel and see you next time.